The party's going on. Thank God it's Friday.
Now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Realm presented by Pro Football Debate. As always, I'm your host, Alan, joined here by BPappy, Brandon, and Adam, our resident writer of all things fantasy football related over at Pro Football Debate. You can view Adam's articles as well as a lot of other great material at profootballdebate.com. But welcome in for another episode. We're going to talk about a handful of things tonight. We're going to recap week 3, fantasy implications that came from a lot of people blowing up in week 3. We're going to preview Thursday night football, and we're going to talk about a little bet that we had on last week's episode that I'm really, really excited to watch Brandon pay up for. What's going on, guys? How we doing tonight?
Doing well, man. Doing better now that Brandon lost that bet. I'll tell you that.
By a smidgen.
Yeah,
by a smidgen.
I was sweating it.
Only because Keenan Allen went otherworldly to even have you in the neighborhood of competing.
Hey, I wasn't that far off on the prediction. I thought Russ would have to throw a ton and get me some points, but I needed one touchdown out of all 4 of them, and freaking Keenan Allen, 18 catches, couldn't get in the end zone. So
unbelievable. From a fantasy perspective, when was the last time? Who was the last wide receiver we saw in that neighborhood with catches? I feel like Devontae Adams, maybe with Aaron Rodgers, had a game in that neighborhood.
I think Keenan Allen has done it before.
And your boy Puka just had 15 the other week.
Yeah, 15, yeah. For those of you that are wondering what bet we're talking about, if you're tuning in, you did not watch last week's episode. Adam on the fly came up with an idea where we would all pick one quarterback, one wide receiver, one running back, and one tight end, and we would draft in a snake order. And whoever won would be literally the king. That would be myself. And whoever lost would have to chug a beer. Whoever lost would have to chug a beer, more importantly, on the next episode, which is today. So Brandon, I guess the first question I have for you is being the loser. Do you want to recap? Do you have the lineup in front of you? Do you want to recap our lineups for everybody?
Yeah, I was just going to actually try to add it to the screen here. Give me 1 second. Man, I'll
Even
get it up.
better. While you're figuring that out, have you thought about what kind of beer you're going to chug, or are you doing like a wine cooler or something?
No, I got a Austin Brothers Press On Pale Ale. Austin Brothers.
Shane K would be proud if he's watching.
Oh, look at that! All right, so there's our lineups for the week. So Adam had the best quarterback pick with Justin Herbert. He also had Bijan Robinson, which was a risky pick going up against the Lions. Lions defense is kind of shutting running backs down right now. Justin Jefferson at wide receiver and TJ Hawkinson at tight end. I took Kirk Cousins. Travis Etienne ended up being the highest scoring running back chosen. Tyreek Hill, which was really only outdone by Keenan Allen's insane production. And then I also had Travis Kelce and Brandon bringing up the rear. And I know he's going to try to say, well, I didn't want to take number ones all over the place. Well, the name of the game was to win, and you did not do that in the least bit.
You did take the most obvious picks. At least Adam went off the charts a little bit.
Hey, you had a chance just like everybody else to take anybody. I understand Adam liked Travis Etienne, but I don't think that Etienne was like a slam dunk home run. Like, yeah, you got to take him.
No, he wasn't. And then I panicked. So I was going to take him, and I was like, well, I've been pimping up Ford all week. Like, I should take Ford. I was like, no, I need to take somebody that's a stud. And I was like, I don't know.
You played it safe. Yeah, you played it safe with the better talent.
I wasn't trying to hold up the length of it. I just wanted to hurry up and pick, but I wasn't prepared.
I respect it.
I should have went with LaPorta. I take LaPorta and both.
You should have taken Turpin.
You definitely shouldn't have taken Hunter Henry. That's for damn sure.
He was going into the week. He was the tight end too, and he's still ranking. High. And Mac Jones loves his tight end. So
yeah, well, he's also the reason you lost this bet.
You know what?
It was Russ. Russ was the reason I lost.
Okay,
but you know what? Let's just see that chug.
Fine.
And for
carry on.
Everyone watching, we probably got like 10 minutes to talk about things while Brandon chugs.
Yeah.
Brandon chugs extremely slow. like a mudded sink drains.
Been practicing just for this.
He chugs about as well as he drunk wrestles in the front yard of Tony Lombardo's house.
But if anybody's watching this and cares to comment, did you guys enjoy that draft? Do you enjoy watching Brandon struggle to chug this beer? Is this something you want us to do again? Do you want to see what daily we could do it with our daily allotment of money and come up with a lineup or do something similar to this every week? I'd be happy to do it. If you guys get enjoyment out of it, we'll keep doing it.
All right, Brandon. Adam and I are going to talk for a few minutes while you chug that beer because I know it's not going to go quickly.
Shout out to the society.
I'm going
to give them that.
I'm going to hit a stopwatch when you start it, so we're going to let the world know how long this takes you.
All right.
Go ahead. Have at it.
So
this is borderline embarrassing. I wonder if he got it room temperature, if he's drinking it ice cold.
That was actually pretty good for him.
That wasn't too bad. 10.9 seconds to chug a beer.
Oh, well.
I'd like to challenge anybody that's viewing this to share a comment on Facebook with a video of them chugging a beer. If you can do it faster than Brandon, maybe we'll make Brandon chug another one next episode.
And hashtag Brandon's a bitch.
That's right.
So we can follow it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's jump into it. Brandon, thanks for being a man of your word and owning up to a bet lost. A bet lost is a bet lost. So 10.9 seconds. I'm a little bit disappointed in you, but it is what it is. You're probably going to lose again in the future, so you'll have more time to practice. But let's carry on. Let's talk about week 3. A ton of crazy stuff happened in week 3. So who do you guys want to start with first? I mean, there was a bunch of people that popped off. Probably most importantly, let's talk about the Dolphins' absolute embarrassment to the Broncos. That backfield apparently is a two-headed monster now. Achane and Mostert. What do you guys think of that? That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if they could play the Broncos every week, that'd be great. I think the Broncos have just given up.
3 weeks into the season.
But yeah, so we I talked about Mostert being a sell, and everyone's probably thinking that I'm an idiot for saying that, but I'm gonna double down on it, and I think Achane's definitely going to be more involved in that offense, and they're not always going to score 70, and Waddle will be back. So I think Mostert is going to continue, or he's not going to continue. He's going to start to decline in his touches and carries. There's no better time than to sell him right now. There's no better time. Achane, you probably can't buy him, but that's what I'm doing in that backfield still. And like I wrote about a couple weeks ago, the Tua to Tyreek Hill stack, if you can pull it off, stack it up. You'll suffer a couple weeks here and there, but when those two pop off, it's almost a guaranteed win. Yeah, for sure. I agree. I have Tua and Tyreek stacked in one of my redraft leagues, and that's it's been a home run for me. I'm undefeated in the league right now. So, Brandon, what do you think on that Miami backfield?
Yeah, I don't see Mostert continuing on with that. I think that offense has so many weapons, and it's always going to be Tyreek Hill that stands out, and Waddle when he comes back, we'll get some too. And the emergence of Achane is interesting for me because I have him. I had him in a Debbie league, and these young guys come in, they're gonna steal carries. Mostert, like Adam pointed out, he's kind of.
And he's never played a full season.
Right. He's going to break at some point. So then Achane's going to stand out, and they're splitting carries. It just happened. They scored 9 touchdowns between the two of them. 8. 8. And then Mostert had 2 receiving, I think, if not 1 or 2.
Other way around. Yeah. Mostert had 3 rushing, 1 receiving. Achane had 2 rushing, 2 receiving.
So yeah, like Adam said, if they can play the Broncos every week, then yeah, sure. But I think that offense is going to still revolve around Tua and Tyreek. I think maybe not next week, but the week after, you're going to see Mostert fall off a little bit. He's not going to maintain running back 1. I don't think. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely outside the norm, right? So I said last week, Brandon said that Mostert is Adam said Mostert was a sell. I said Mostert was a buy. If you took my advice and you bought Mostert and you started him, you probably won last week. I don't think that he can be a buy anymore. He just had 4 touchdowns in a game on 80 yards rushing, 7 catches, 60 receiving yards. Like, he went off. They did split carries this past week. Achane had 18 carries. Mostert had 13 carries. That game got out of control really, really fast. And so I think that it sort of allowed Miami to see what Achane was made of. And that's why Achane was really running the ball kind of later into the game. They could kind of test the kid out and see what he had, right? They were up a bunch. They didn't have to worry about it. I don't think that Achane is going to I understand it. He went for over 200 yards. He went 203 yards. He's also playing against the Broncos, and the Broncos down 40, down 50 aren't running out their A1 defense there late in the game either. So it's not like, one, he was running against the Broncos, and 2, he's running against a bunch of backups at one point as well. I don't think that Achane is going to chew into Mostert's time a ton. You can worry about Mostert's health. I mean, we can worry about any running back in the league's health. Probably too high of a cost to buy him now. But if you got Mostert, if you can find somebody to pay up on him, by all means, go for it. But I don't think you're going to find. Well, I don't want to pay that much for him, and I think he's going to produce. So I'm keeping Mostert on my lineup.
And one thing too, just like perception overall, like anytime a player has a big week like this, everybody jumps on it, right? Like, it's Puka with the 15 receptions, and then he comes back and he has 7. Then it's Tyreek Hill in the first game he had whatever it was, 200 yards. Keenan Allen this week, the backfield from Miami this week with the 4 touchdowns apiece. Those are games that will happen along the way, but it's not going to be the norm that's set, for these teams. So looking at the rankings, if you follow those week to week, there's going to be guys that are in and guys that fall out. And those guys that maintain, like one that stands out to me is Tony Pollard. He's right around 15, 20 points for week 1 through 3 each week. It's pretty consistent. He stayed right around the running back 4 position, right? You have Achane and Mostert kind of been bouncing up and down. 60 points is going to do that, right? So it's going to give that perception. They're there, scored a ton of points, but they're not really – they did it in 1 week, and that happens throughout the year. So I think it's something to pay attention to overall. So, I follow it pretty closely. I like to try to stay as consistent as possible. I want my guys to get 15, 20 points a week. And those guys that do that over the big play guys are the ones I prefer. Just something to take note of or pay attention to. Mostert I just don't see that happening all the time. So
Yeah, right on. So another guy that popped off in week 3 and probably got a lot of teams wins on his own merits. So I guess I'll start by saying Tyreek Hill still continuing to be dominant, right? That was a blowout victory. He really only played about a half. Still had 9 catches, 157 yards and a touchdown, but he was overshadowed at the wide receiver position this week by Brandon's pick in our draft competition. And that was Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen went nuts. He had 18 catches, over 200 yards, did not have a receiving touchdown, but he actually threw for a 49-yard touchdown. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was to Mike Williams, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was to Mike Williams before Mike Williams tore his ACL, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Mike Williams. Allen, he's a must-start wide receiver 1, right? Most people were operating with him as a must-start wide receiver 1. Maybe if you were really loaded at receiver 2 in your lineups anyways, but he's still a guy you got to roll out there in your lineups no matter what every week, right? Yeah,
I think especially if Eckler's out, and obviously now with Mike Williams out, he's going to be the focal point of that offense. I had that kind of on the radar that with Eckler out in week 2, he had a pretty big game, and I kind of targeted that as him having another. So I think fantasy, like daily fantasy related, if Eckler's out with an injury and now with Mike Williams out, you have to go with Keenan Allen. I think he's going to lead receivers for that week if Eckler's out. So Eckler's back in, though. I think he definitely takes away a lot of the game too from Keenan Allen for sure.
Yeah, Adam, what do you think about the Mike Williams injury and how that affects the Chargers offense from a fantasy perspective? It looks like Eckler is possibly in line to return this week. He's a limited participant in practice already. So what's the implications from the Mike Williams injury? Are you targeting Josh Palmer? Are you targeting Quentin Johnston? With Eckler coming back, where are you at on that Chargers offense?
Well, I'm going to play the situation knowing that Eckler's going to come back, whether it's this week or next or the week after. I think long-term wise, Eckler and Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett probably benefit the most on a consistent basis from that injury. But if you're looking to pick up one of the wide receivers, I'd go, if you need the short-term play and you need the points right now, it's Josh Palmer. He had a pretty good sophomore season last year. He's got rapport with Justin Herbert. I think he played like 76% of the snaps, and to like 20% for Quentin Johnson. But Quentin Johnson is the better fit for Mike Williams' role. So
size, speed, kind of outside receiver.
Only play outside. Yeah, he doesn't run the routes that Palmer does. He doesn't have the hands Palmer does, but he's big and fast, physical. To me, I'm going to play for the long term, and I would pick up Quentin Johnson, but it would not surprise me if Palmer more than doubles him in fantasy points this season. Because Quentin Johnson has failed to separate from the pack there. He looks like a rookie. He's got a limited route tree. He's got bad hands, and I don't know. Josh Palmer's got the rapport. So neither one of them I'm excited about. I wouldn't rush the waiver wire to grab them. I know by the time you guys see this, waiver wire's over, but to me, I'd rather pick up Gerald Everett.
Okay, tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's fair. Another person that popped off this week is a wide receiver that you've kind of been pounding the table for a little bit lately. Wide receiver out of Houston, Tank Dell. I think he had five catches, 100-something yards, and a touchdown, right?
Yeah, he's CJ Stroud's boy. So Nico Collins owned the first couple weeks, and then week 2, you kind of saw Tank Dell start to take over. Mm-hmm. And you saw in week 3, he was heavily favored in that offense. He had 6 for 145 and a touchdown, 7 targets compared to 3 for Nico Collins. I think as we watch this go, obviously Nico's going to get more targets here and there, but I think you're going to see Robert Woods stay at that 4 to 6 target range. And I think you're going to see Nico Collins be dependent on the game flow. And Tank Dell's going to be the go-to guy there. So if you can transition to Tank Dell, I would definitely do it. I see him moved a lot in dynasty leagues and redraft leagues right now. He's a buy for me, in dynasty especially, and even in redraft. I think he's going to take over as that go-to target.
Yeah. And I want to circle back real quick. And I meant to ask this when you mentioned Gerald Everett. Are you more in on Gerald Everett than you are Donald Parham? I know Donald Parham, he only had 2 catches, but both of his catches went for touchdowns. The dude is 6'8", so he's a legit red zone threat. You're more in on Gerald Everett than Donald Parham?
Yeah. If I'm in a touchdown only league, then maybe Parham. But if I'm in a PPR league or just a yardage league, I'm going to take Gerald Everett. Okay. He was pretty good last year for the first 70% of the league or year last year. He got a lot of targets, a lot of catches. So I would take Gerald Everett to probably be their number 3 pass catcher after Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler.
Right on. Brandon, I want you to lead this one off. We finally saw a little bit of life out of a fantasy option or a highly drafted fantasy player that has not performed at all this year, and that's Jamar Chase. If I'm not missing, Mixon mixed a touchdown in there in that offense. So we saw a resurgence of Jamar Chase. Did he finish with like 12 catches? He had a nice day. I think he had 12. Yeah, he had a nice day. But we still have Joe Burrow on the side of every milk carton in the neighborhood right now because he is still not shown up. We don't know where the hell he's at.
He needs to rest.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Brandon, on the Bengals offense? Is Jamar Chase did he rest your concerns with regards to damn, should I be benching this dude, or I know his talent was always kind of a guy that you don't want to bench him, but where are you at on Jamar Chase? Is he back in your good graces? And talk to me about Burrow.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this the last couple episodes, and I'm a proponent that water finds its level, and I think that offense will come into its own eventually here. It sucks for fantasy owners, but you have to ride Jamar Chase. You're not gonna sit him. He's a must start every week. I also think Burrow, until he's 100%, I'm not starting him. I think his calf is definitely holding him back. He's still going to get the job done. They're still going to be competitive, still win games, but he's just not going to put up the typical Joe Burrow numbers till he's healthy. So I think both will come into their own. I think they're fine. But I'm sitting Joe Burrow until he's 100 back 80, 90%, better from the calf.
Yeah. I unfortunately have Burrow in one of my leagues, and I think I'm about at the point where I got to bench him. And I actually have relegated him to being in my super flex. I think I have Jared Goff as my starter, Burrow as my super flex, and I got to start looking at options otherwise. So
I benched Goff or Burrow last week for Jordan Love in a league.
How'd that had to work. That probably worked out okay for you, right?
Yeah, it did. Big time.
Yeah.
I just want to say I said that I would start Jared Goff over Joe Burrow. I think it was in our very first episode or second one. You both said you are crazy, and look at what's going on now.
Yeah, well,
he's hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
That's what a cheap shot right there, right? Guy's mad he had to chug a beer.
Yeah, he's probably feeling it.
What other storylines stood out to you guys from week 3? Anything that caught your attention?
Yeah, the new bad boy in the tight end scene,
Sam LaPorta. Huh?
Come on, dude looks like a veteran. He's playing like a veteran. I don't think he's got a drop yet this season. He's getting a ton of targets. He's starting to get more and more trusted by both Jared Goff and Ben Johnson. He's the tight end 2 right now. Brandon released those stats. Sam LaPorta is him. He's going to continue to be pretty solid. I bet you he breaks some rookie records this year for tight ends. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. He looks like the game is just coming very very naturally. Yeah, like the game has already slowed down for him. And usually rookies at that position, it takes them a while, right? The game's too fast, but he looks really, really comfortable out there. And Goff looks like he likes him a lot.
You can trust him. The dude catches everything. And I mean, he's kind of a beast.
Makes tough catches.
Yeah. For a tight end, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a situation to pay attention to. I think at this point, he's sort of played himself into your lineups, right? If you have Sam LaPorta, I mean, there's really not anybody that you're starting. Oh, you're still going to start Kelsey over him. You're probably going to start. I mean, like, name who are you going to start over him? I guess that's the question.
Hawkinson and Kelsey.
That's probably it, right?
I'm probably not starting Mark Andrews over him, to be honest. That might catch a lot of backlash, but. And then definitely not Kittle, definitely not Kyle Pitts, definitely not Goddard, definitely not who's next. I don't know. You name them. Waller. Yeah, Waller. Zach Ertz, Higbee. No. Jake Ferguson. No. No, there's not a guy out.
I think a guy that could come into it is Green Bay's tight end, Luke Musgrave. He's been interesting. And kind of came out of nowhere, but
he didn't come out of nowhere. But he's been getting the targets and he's been catching the ball. But they're also going to introduce back Christian Watson. Yeah, LaPorta doesn't have the same challenges for targets,
right?
And is in a better passing offense.
Yeah, I think that if Sam LaPorta was not doing what he's doing right now, Luke Musgrave would be getting a lot more talk. As a rookie tight end, because he's not doing bad, right? I mean, he had just week 3, 8 targets. He had 6 catches for 49 yards. He hasn't found pay dirt yet. But the people would be talking about him a lot more if LaPorta wasn't doing what he's doing. So.
Oh, we lost Adam.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
I think his computer died.
All right, we had to take a real quick break there because Adam here, while he is a very responsible writer for ProFootballDebate.com, he is not the most responsible podcaster yet, and did not get his juice all charged up. He let his laptop die, so he had to relocate, get plugged in, and we are back coming at you on the Fantasy Realm. Adam, welcome back. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here, fellas.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we kind of recapped some big things that went on in week 3. Some of the high performers. We talked about Keenan Allen. We talked about the running backs out in Miami. I want to preview tomorrow night's game. This is the Green Bay Packers hosting the Detroit Lions Thursday Night Football at Lambeau Field. From a fantasy perspective. What are the players that we're watching in this matchup here? Adam, if you want to get us going with that one.
I'd like to see how. So Aaron Jones and Christian Watson are supposed to be back.
And David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see how the Aaron Jones and Plotter, A.J. Dillon run against Detroit's defense. If Detroit's defense is for real.
Dillon's been terrible. Yeah,
because he is terrible. But he's a terrible fantasy running back. He can go and get you that yard. But I want to see how Aaron Jones does and how Detroit stacks up against it. And, I wrote an article today and published it, my starts and who should be on your bench and such. I think I'm interested to see what the wide receivers in Green Bay shake out at. Who's going to emerge, right? Does Jaden Reed go away? Is Dobbs going to continue to be that number one go-to, or what's Watson's involvement? My prediction is it's still going to be Dobbs. You'll see a little bit less of Jaden, but Watson will be sprinkled in here and there. He's not going to really. I wouldn't start him just yet.
Yeah. All right. What do you? What about you, Brandon? Any matchups that appeal to you? Any storylines out of that game, fantasy wise, that you're looking at?
I'll just go at it from like a start-sit perspective. I mean, sitting Aaron Jones. Just Lions have one of the best rush defenses against fantasy running backs. I think they are around like 15 points a game averaging to backfield. So you saw it. They shut down Bijan and Tyler Algier pretty much. So I'm not coming off an injury. I have Aaron Jones. I have to start him because I don't have anybody else really behind him.
Likewise, I do too.
If I have somebody to go in his place, I'm definitely looking at those options and not starting him. Definitely would look to stack Jordan Love and probably Dobbs. I would even maybe think about Jaden Reed. I don't think same thing with Watson coming off an injury. I don't think he's going to be ready to go back. He's going to be more of a decoy play in my opinion, this first week back. And that's what I go. The Lions are struggling against quarterbacks and wide receivers for fantasy points. So I think it'll definitely be a shootout that side. And in the same sense, I lean to the Lions side to go with like Goff and Amon-Ra. Obviously, Amon-Ra is a must start pretty much anyways, but LaPorta, Goff as well, and maybe even Gibbs a little bit. I think Montgomery coming back could be a little bit of a decoy coming off the injury. I mean, Gibbs maybe sees a little bit more action, although we didn't see a ton last week either out of him. So not really super convinced on him, but it's possible. But I think you have to ride you can only go off of what we know, right? And you have to go off of the data kind of a little bit in these situations. And any quarterback and wide receiver going up against the Lions probably going to be better off than a running back. So that's where I'm at with that. And then the Lions side, I think you just got to continue to ride Goff and Amon-Ra and LaPorta on their side. So
I have two must starts in the game, and it's Amon-Ra and Sam LaPorta. I don't think I have Jordan Love listed as a strong start as with David Montgomery, and those are both plus matches, but I don't think they're must starts because you might have better options in your lineup than Jordan Love on a Thursday night. And then as far as Jared Goff being a must start that you called, he's not the same.
He's still on the road. He's on the road. He's outdoors.
Yeah, I think they're gonna really ride the running game. You saw it again at Kansas City on the
especially
opening
if
night game.
Demo's back, especially if Montgomery's back.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be more Montgomery with some Gibbs, and then Goff will mix in some stuff here and there. But I mean, I think Goff's a good start. I'm not benching. If I have a good option against a good defense or a weak defense, I'm going to go with that other quarterback than Jared Goff. I probably put him around quarterback 12 to 14 this week.
Yeah, that's fair. I hope we're wrong and he throws for 303 touchdowns. And
I hope he throws for 6,000 yards and he breaks the record. And
yeah,
I'm interested on that because
Taylor Swift.
I've seen I think Jared Goff is still extremely undervalued in the fantasy world. Right now he's not
even just undervalued in fantasy. He's undervalued.
Well, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's right now in points. He's QB9 and he sits behind Russell Wilson, which is, I think you're starting Goff over Russell Wilson at this point. I learned my lesson last week. I would have rather started Goff than Russell Wilson. The guys in front of him and even Jordan Love is number 4. So I think this has all the makings to be an offensive shootout, and those quarterbacks will see a lot more points than people think. Although it is Thursday night game, tend to be low scoring, so really interesting to see if it comes out that way. But I'm just curious, Adam, with Jared Goff, who are you starting over him outside of your Herbert, Cousins, and Tua, and even probably Mahomes? But outside of that,
I might start Stroud over him.
Yeah.
Let me ask you.
They're not running the ball in Houston. He's gonna throw the ball.
I want to hit you with this because Jared Goff, I would say, is drafted in a lot of leagues and non-super flex leagues as a quarterback 2. A lot of people were not drafting Goff as a quarterback 1. If Josh Allen is your quarterback 1, who are you starting? Josh Allen or Jared Goff?
Not even thinking about it, dude. I'm trying to trade Goff or Josh Allen.
Yeah,
if I have both of those.
How about this one? Deshaun Watson or Jared Goff?
I wouldn't draft Deshaun Watson, but I would trade.
Not drafting, starting. If you have them both in your lineup,
never. I would never. I hate him. I think he is so inconsistent, and I've seen so many awful reads and awful passes from Watson. It's Goff easy for me.
Jared Goff or Brock Purdy?
Oh,
Goff. Goff's outperforming him fantasy-wise, right? They run the ball a ton in San Francisco. It starts to get a little bit easier after that. Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson? I'm still starting Lamar Jackson. He just ran for 100 yards. Yeah, he ran for 100 yards and rushed for a touchdown. It starts to get pretty thin. After that. There's not a lot of guys that I'm starting over Jared Goff.
Yeah. And going back to Josh Allen, he's matched up with the Dolphins this week. So I think obviously all signs point to he's going to have to throw, but I'm curious to see if Buffalo tries to really slow the game down and slow down that offense. And they have the ability to do that. Yeah. So does he throw as much? And I'd be curious to see that side to it. But right now I think Josh Allen and Jared Goff are almost dead even for points. So that's maybe the only other one, like you said, I would start. But
all right, I got one more question about tomorrow night's game, and this one's kind of a player that a lot of people were picking up off of waivers after the first couple of weeks, and then he threw up a goose egg this past week in week 3. Josh Reynolds was kind of looking like a really, really good waiver pickup weeks 1 and 2. Weeks 3, he took a back seat to Khalif Raymond, Khalif Raymond looks like a guy who's emerging. Now it seems like Marvin Jones is he's just not even an option. And we all thought he was kind of coming into the season as the wide receiver 3. Khalif Raymond stepped up last week and had a really nice game. Where are we at on Khalif Raymond? Is he the option over Josh Reynolds? Are you looking at him, or is it still Josh Reynolds?
The defense is going to tell you who is going to be the option for that day. The Detroit Lions passing game doesn't force the ball to anybody. Players earn it and they go with what's given to them. I started Josh Reynolds in a couple leagues and that hurt. He didn't even get a target.
Yeah, not a single target.
But that's not gonna be
the norm
for him.
Yep.
And, you know, you're going to have weeks. If you start Reynolds or you start Raymond, you're playing with fire. They have extremely high upside for yardage and touchdowns, not catches, but you're also going to have to play with a goose egg. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Marvin Jones has a touchdown on Thursday night, right? Marvin Jones could show up and be that guy.
Yeah.
So it's a situation to avoid unless you're desperate and you need a what the heck Hail Mary attempt. I'm avoiding all those. Until JMO comes back, there's only one wide receiver on Detroit I start with any remote confidence.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think the emergence of your boy Sam LaPorta has really nullified the addition of Marvin Jones. I think that's probably the biggest detriment to Marvin Jones' ability is the fact that Sam LaPorta is on the scene.
Yeah, it could. I mean, they obviously ran plays specifically for him, and he has garnered more looks, and he's going to continue to earn those looks. So,
yep, absolutely. All right, good deal, Brandon. You got anything else you want to add on that topic there?
No, I was just going to say, I think you're like Adam said, you're playing with fire when you have Amon-Ra, obviously number 1, LaPorta's number 2, Gibbs might even be number 3, and then it goes to Reynolds or Raymond or Marvin Jones, and it's just they're so deep. The Lions don't seem like they have a ton of weapons, but they're starting to emerge a little bit, I think, offensively. So
they're the best play caller in football, or top 3 play caller in football. So they're going to find, they're going to run those guys into open routes.
Yeah, the one thing that I do like about Khalif Raymond, this is a weird situation where, Amon-Ra gets force-fed the ball. He's the one guy that is going to get the targets. He's going to get the ball, right? If something were, I'll knock on wood when I say this, if something bad were to happen and Amon-Ra was to get injured or something like that, they're more than likely going to, they're going to find a guy to run those routes. I feel like Khalif Raymond's skill set is most closely aligned with what Amon-Ra St. Brown can do. For me, I'm probably targeting Khalif Raymond as more of a handcuff to Amon-Ra St. Brown than I am as a wide receiver 2-3 playable option in my fantasy lineup. I'm more or less just stashing him in the poor event that something happened to Saint.
I just think they'll totally change their passing attack offense than to try to fill the role of Amon-Ra. You don't replace what he does. If he could, then more guys would be having his type of success.
Yeah, so Ben Johnson's creative enough to be able to do that, obviously, too.
Yeah, I think you probably see more tight ends, double tight end sets, more Gibbs in the slot type of shit.
Yeah, and I was going to say before, too, people are rushing out to get Josh Reynolds, and it's like, you might get him for a week or two, and he might do something, but you also have JMO coming back shortly. So I think that's maybe a little bit forgotten about that, like, in the heat of it, you're like, oh, Josh Reynolds, 2 weeks, he's having, but we're also missing JMO, and who knows what's going to happen once he comes back. I mean, everybody's super excited for it to see what really does come out of it, and hopefully something good, but I'm not wasting a move to pick up those guys for a week or two when he's going to be coming back. And I think it's going to be they're going to drop even further. So,
Yeah, I like that. We'll talk. I've got a little something up my sleeve for our next episode in a couple of days. We're going to talk about Jameson Williams a little bit. We're going to talk about some different trade scenarios that Jameson Williams might be involved with. Some trades that I've got out there offered to me right now. We're going to talk about that in a couple of days. Tune in to our next episode. It'll air Saturday. We're going to talk about previewing Week 4 in its entirety. We'll likely do some more must-start, must-sits. Probably make another bet that Brandon's going to have to end up drinking due to, and talk about some more stuff fantasy related. So for now, if you don't mind, like our content, share it, comment in the comments below. Anything you can do to support us and improve the algorithm across all social media platforms is appreciated. But until next time, this has been another episode of the Fantasy Realm, and we will see everybody in a couple days. Adios.
Adios, fellas.